Hey, I'm T.A. Charlie, and welcome to the Road to Concord with Professor Joe Bakanovic. Homeroom is on Rumble. You just go to Rumble and search the channels for the Road to Concord. It's one word. When you find it, you go ahead and you click follow. It might mean you got to set up an account, but it's fast, it's easy, it's free. I did it. You can do it. For those technologically challenged members of the class, you can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube. After the show, it's uploaded to Podbean, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and eventually to BitChute. Just look for the Road to Concord. You can go to the blog page, that's theroadtoconcord.com. That's where you'll find all your show notes, study notes, and handouts for the class. The phone is working. If you don't know how to call in, email us and we'll think about it. Finally, you can email a professor at joe@theroadtoconcord.com. He's a little slow, but he'll eventually get around to emailing you back. This show is currently mainly listener sponsored. If you are interested in advertising your business on the show, email us. With that said, we ask for your participation on a value for value basis. If you find our show of value to you, then you provide an equivalent portion of your labor and treasure through the donate link on the Road to Concord blog page, the show description on Rumble, and in the comments on the other feeds. And thank you to all of those who have and will support this show.
Not bad, Charlie.
That's a take.
That's a take, folks. We recorded that. That's going to be part of our new intro here soon. You'll have to put the school bell right before you do that.
Yeah. I'll work on, and I'm gonna try to have the music in the background as well and stuff. But
got to at least have
it might take a little bit, but we'll get it.
Got to keep that connected to at least this part of the show. All right. Good morning, folks. Morning. It's Monday. Used to be Manic Monday, but we don't do that anymore. Show has evolved. It's like 532 episodes now, man. It's hard to believe we've been at this that long. And that's like, might not seem like all that much, except that, we don't always do more than one show a week. So anyhow, before we get into the bulk of today's show, let me just get the political, I'm not going to say elephant in the room, monkey in the room out of the way. If you're a supporter of President Trump, not that he's actually president, he still has given that over to the courts. But if you're still a supporter of Trump, the Donald just called you stupid. Yep, he did. Because you're worried about that Epstein stuff. Now, if all of a sudden you're not worried about the Epstein stuff, then I'm going to call you lacking in the frontal cortex. Okay, deficient in the frontal cortex, because that was one of the things you and I voted for him for. He was going to expose all the Epstein stuff. Now he's telling you that was all a hoax. He's gaslighting you, because if it was a hoax, why did his administration prosecute Epstein? Remember, it was Donald 45 who prosecuted Epstein. So if it was a hoax, then the hoax was perpetrated by Donald Trump, which makes him no different than lying Hillary and Barack Obama, who perpetrated Russiagate. So if Epstein Gate is a hoax, Donald did it. Yes, you blame it on him, because he prosecuted Epstein for no reason whatsoever. Folks, this is where we're at today. This is the reason I'm doing today's show. I'm not going to get into a lot of that with that type of political stuff today. I don't want to do it, but I will never trust Donald Trump again. I'm done. I'm on record for this. I explained to you that I was worried this was going to happen. We now officially have out in the open the Uniparty. It is as clear as it can get. Here it is. This is how it works. The Democrats turn everything to the left. And then publicly, the Republicans block movement to the right, blaming it on the Democrats. Well, we don't have enough Republicans to do that. So when Donald had a chance to undo all of Obamacare, he just undid a little bit of it. He did exactly what the Republican Party has always done and claimed victory for it. Thumped himself on the chest, victory laps, running around, crowing like a rooster about how he got this big, beautiful bill passed after they gutted it. I don't think he's any different. You can tell me he's different. He's not. It's all smoke and mirrors. You're caught in the matrix. But this picture right here, this is how it works. We never, ever retake ground. Ever. And to the extent that, well, Donald's redone a whole bunch of stuff. No, he hasn't. Well, they codified a few things into law. For now. They just found a different way to fund it. I guarantee you. And the only reason they're going after him going after these things right now is because Donald's on a revenge rampage, just like they told him, the left told us he would be. So for Joe, what we have here is a breach of public trust, a huge one, an absolutely huge breach of public trust. And it reaches all letters, whether you're a D, an R, an I, an L, it doesn't matter. I want to take you to the topic of today's story, the social contract. This is Encyclopedia Britannica. You got a picture of Thomas Hobbes over here. I hate that dude. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's just read a little bit of this real quick. The social contract in political philosophy. An actual or hypothetical compact or agreement between the ruled or between the ruled and their rulers, defining the rights and duties of each. In primeval times, according to the theory, individuals were born into an archaic, quote-unquote, state of nature, which was happy or unhappy according to the particular version of the theory. The people then, by exercising natural reason, formed a society and government by means of social contract, social agreement. It was a agreement between all. Although similar ideas can be traced to the Greek sophists, social contract theories had their greatest currency in the 17th and 18th century and are associated with the English philosophers Thomas Hobbes and John Locke. I'm a Lockean, folks, just for clear disclosure. And the French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. What distinguished these theories of political obligation from other doctrines of the period was their attempt to justify and delimit political authority on the grounds of individual self-interest and rational consent. By comparing the advantages of organized government with the disadvantages of the state of nature, they showed why and under what conditions government is useful and ought therefore to be accepted by all reasonable people as a voluntary obligation. These conclusions were then reduced to the form of a social contract from which it was supposed that all the essential rights and duties of citizens could be logically deduced. Theories of social contract differ according to their purpose. Some were designed to justify the power of the sovereign, while others were intended to safeguard the individual from oppression by a sovereign who was all too powerful. We've covered some of this before on this show. Thomas Hobbes wrote Leviathan, and it literally comes from the Bible, the sea monster, the chaos monster. Now, the problem with Thomas Hobbes was, to me, he basically said, you have no right to rebel against whatever situation you're born into because the people before you agreed to it, and now you're stuck with it. He was defining or defending absolute monarchy, but he could defend his philosophy could also defend the Indian caste system or anything like that. I don't like him. Sounds good when you read him, but once you understand what he's saying and how it applies, it's kind of like Marx. Sounds good on paper, but doesn't work in the real world. Not for the people who are on the bottom end of things, get the short end of the stick. Then there's the two treatises on government, a letter concerning toleration. This is John Locke. I am a Lockean in my social contract theory because I do adhere to social contract theory. I'm Lockean in that regard. And Locke is basically, he drew his thinking from primarily from the book of Romans. He's very natural rights orientated in the fact that there is a creator and he's the source of your rights, and that man's civil law can be deduced from there. That's just in a nutshell. But our founding fathers heavily favored Locke over Hobbes, but they read both. They also read Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the social contract theory. And just for those of you who might not be familiar with Rousseau, I'll post this. This is a link in the comment section. It's a free PDF to the book that I have in my hand right now. So Rousseau's a love-hate thing for me. In this country, the social contract is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. The Constitution was ratified by the states. The state governments were elected by their people. So the states ratified the Constitution. That was a social compact between the states. Now it says, "We, the people of the United States," and it was attacked immediately by people who were not in the convention when they read it for, how dare you say "we, the people." But we're not going to rehash that. The point of the matter here is there are people in the world who will say this social contract theory is garbage. It's not real. The Constitution of the United States is literally a social compact. And if you understand what was going on at the time and what the founding fathers were doing, it's a social contract, social compact. It's a social contract, however you want to put it. It's an agreement supposedly about all the states, but the way it was written, between all the people within the several states. And if we decide that we don't agree with it anymore, or worse, it no longer applies, excuse me, then that contract is broken. Now, I want to show you something, and I know you all know it. You've seen it many times before. Right here is the National Archives, America's founding documents. We're in the Declaration of Independence. We're going to come down to the second paragraph. And this is the founding fathers writing the Declaration. We, the American people, because they were elected delegates, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. This is Locke. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, they originally had written property, but the pursuit of happiness is not the right to pursue that which makes you feel good. It's the right to pursue the moral and virtuous life. That was a legal doctrine at the time. And if you doubt me, you can look it up under Sir William Blackstone in his commentaries on English law, and he will tell you that. And Jefferson was not the first one to use this phrase. It came originally from a man about a year or two, another fellow Virginian writing for the Virginian Constitution in the Virginian state governments. He used that term a couple of years earlier in Virginia. So it's not that Jefferson stole it, because that man got it from Christian history, Christian thinking. So it was just part and parcel of the time. We don't remember that anymore today because, we're so far removed from this. He says, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. This is the line I want you to pay attention to. Right here, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That means our founding fathers thought of the government as a social contract. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizations, its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So in other words, when the contract is broken, the people have a justification in dissolving the old government, in creating a new one. Now, have I not told you that that's part of what the progressives are looking to do? They want to destroy the existing system. Now, in order to do that, you have to break the social contract. You have to create chaos, which is essentially lawlessness. We live in such a society today. The social contract is broken. I don't mean to revel in this. This is serious to me. The sociologist and the philosopher are both talking to you today, as well as the believer. So, what are the signs of a broken social contract in government? Well, the biggest one is a multi-tiered judicial system. Now, if you think we do not have one of those, let me ask you, why is Jeffrey Epstein's list not published? Because you're protecting people. That's a two-tiered justice system. Hillary Clinton clearly violated the law and more than likely committed treason with her email server. Why was she not put in jail? Barack Obama committed treason. And I don't mean with Russiagate. I mean in Libya. He committed the constitutional definition of treason. Why was he not charged? Because the Republicans are never going to do anything about this. They're part of the uniparty.
And Iran too, did he not?
He may have, yes, but he
$1 billion
definitely did. Yeah, but that's maybe.
Anyway,
you could make that case, but he directly ordered the United States military to give aid to ISIS and Al Qaeda,
right?
In Gaddafi. That he fought on the side of stated and known enemies of the United States. That is clear treason. That's treason. There's no question about that. If you're going to say, well, no, it isn't, you have broken the social compact. You have. Trump has broken it with us. Every time a representative runs on promises and then goes back on those promises, they break the social compact because they promised that was what you were voting for. And then they go and do whatever they want. And they claim, well, blah, blah, blah. And they give you all these reasons. It doesn't matter. If they ran on a platform, they have an obligation to advance that agenda because that's your will. They are supposed to be nothing more than representatives. If you allow socialism in any of its many forms, progressivism, socialism, communism, whatever you want to call it, our system ensures a Republican form of government. Well, Republicanism is anti-socialism. Socialism puts the society above the individual. Republicanism ensures that the individual's rights and interests are protected. Now, a lot of people will tell you, well, that's representation. Yes, exactly. You elect a representative, a personal representative, who's expressing your positions, your desires for how you want to be governed, and you send them to office. And when they change their mind, they break the contract they made with you when they got elected. You should be able to sue them over this because that's essentially what they were doing. It's like if I say, I'm asking you to give me delegated power to go execute something for you, and I do it entirely against your will, you're allowed in private world to sue me for this because it's not what it's not what I was told to do. Now, I'm not talking like a general power of attorney or anything. I'm talking about when you are contracted to go do something specific. I contract to build a house for you, and instead I build a house for me on my property instead of yours. I can be sued because I didn't do what I was told to do. The social compact is ideologically, as a concept, it's a contract. So representative form of government, it must represent the individual. Well, I can tax you more because you got more money and I got to give it to I am no longer equally representing your interests. I am favoring the poor over the rich. And the United States Constitution specifically forbids this. Well, the Bill of Rights does. Specifically forbids you to favor one group of people over the other. And it says, it does say if things are equal, you can favor the poor man in a case of law over the rich, if the arguments are equal. But the idea that one person owes more support for the government than the other, based on the fact that you assume that the rich man gets more out of government than the poor, that's not an equal argument. That's an assumption. And it's a case that cannot be made. So socialism in all its many forms is a violation of the federal constitution, of the social contract we call the Constitution and the Declaration. All men are created equal, not equal in ability and talents, equal morally and under the law. That's a biblical principle. like it or not. It is. Because the Greeks never came up with that. The philosophers, no, they never come up with that. Plato's Republic was pre-run, as a forerunner to communism. And it had no problem with lower class people. The idea that you're equal before the law, no matter what class of society you were born into, that's a Christian idea. That comes from the Christian ethic. And it goes all the way back to the apostles in the book of Acts. So the founding fathers, what they were trying to do was give us a system that it was a commonwealth where we worked together, and it gave enough authority to government, but it tied government down so that government could not ignore the rights of the individual. You would never punish the individual for the needs of society. The founding fathers did not agree with Spock that the needs of the many come before those of the one. And I happen to agree, at least in principle. There are situations where that's different, in a war or things like that. But when it comes to matters of law, well, that's different. In matters of law, the rights of the individual need to be equally protected against all of society. So this idea that you can tax one group of people higher than another, that doesn't work. Okay, that's unjust. The idea that you have to feed somebody just because they're poor and destitute. You can do that individually, and that's laudable. But when you tax somebody who doesn't agree with that practice and force them to do something against their will, that's immoral. Under our system of government, that's immoral. You have broken the contract with the person that you are now taking money from. You are taking from their labor, the fruit of their labor, to give to another who has not labored for it. The founding fathers were opposed to that. Benjamin Franklin said the best way to help the poor is to make them as uncomfortable in their poverty as possible so that they'll work harder to get the heck out of it. We have bought into a lie. This lie that, well, you're a product of your circumstances. No, you are not. The circumstances you're born into, that's where you start from. Where you end is not a product of your circumstances, but the result of the sum total of your choices. We have far too many anecdotal examples of people who worked their way up out of poverty to become, quote unquote, something in the world. Now, as you create this caste system, you're doing it so people can't repeat those anecdotal stories. You're trying to create a system that keeps them subjected. That's a breach of our social contract in this country. Yes, sir.
We have Jimmy on the line.
We live?
Hey, buddy.
Good morning, Mr. Zinker. How goes?
Hey, something just occurred to me while I was listening to your commentary that should have occurred to me a long time ago, and it never has. I wish you could have a lawyer to call in or come on and respond to what I'm about to point out and tell us if it is not a sound legal argument, and if not, why not?
Okay.
All right. Under the Constitution, if you are deprived of life or property, you're required to receive what?
Compensation and due process.
Compensation. All right. Under the 16th Amendment, the federal government was permitted, although it was apparently put over on us, not ratified, but they were permitted to tax your income.
Yep.
Now, the government that's taxing your income has specific numerated powers by which it was intended to achieve its objectives. So if the government takes your income away from you and it returns to you in the form of, let's say, part of the presidential salary, it can be argued that you've gotten compensation for what was taken from you, correct?
Yes, because that serves every individual citizen.
All right. Well, when it returns to you in the form of giving it to someone else, be that someone else a billionaire in the form of a subsidy, or a non-motivated slug in the form of a welfare handout, You've gotten no compensation for what they've taken from you.
Actually, yeah, you're correct, because that's theft by proxy.
And they are outside of, I mean, there's nowhere that I have found in Article 1, Section 8 that gives the Congress the power to take money from you for the purpose of giving away to someone else. As a matter of fact, Madison addressed this fact
I was about to
before
say,
the Congress in 1793 when he said, I cannot undertake to lay my finger on that article of the Constitution which granted to the Congress the power in matters of benevolence of expending the monies of their constituents.
Now, you, Jimmy, you know who did that. You know which branch of the government made that quote unquote legal, don't you?
No.
The Supreme Court made welfare
Supreme Court,
legal,
yeah,
in a ruling. And I forget which one it was, but they made a ruling that this was now legal. It was never passed by law. It was never amended. It was just the court. Hence, it's no longer Trump as president. Nobody's been president for a long time. This is why one of the few things he did that I like is Mark Levin, Men in Black Robes, writing about the judicial tyranny, which is exactly what Jefferson told us was going to happen.
Yep. But now, when you
has.
subscribe to Mark Levin, keep in mind that
I said one of the
Hamiltonian.
few things. Yes, I know. Like I said, he's one of the few things that he's done that I like. That book, about Men in Black Robes, that's a good book. He's right there. Hamilton, the reason Hamilton is such a freaking problem for us is, out of context, he sounds great. It's not his language, it's what he does. He talks the talk. He doesn't walk the walk.
Oh, well, Hamilton is in
perfect progressive.
Hamiltonianism, his true motivations, not what he wrote in the Federalist Papers, but what he was doing in his actions.
He's a perfect progressive. He was Wilson before there was a Woodrow freaking Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Through the book, The Real Abraham Lincoln, and the book, how I think you turned me on to that book, How Hamilton Screwed Up America.
Yeah.
You can trace it from Hamilton through Lincoln, through Wilson, all the way to Obama, up to the present day. Every one of them up there that's preaching that progressive tribe.
Yes.
It's a series of mutations and morphations where they've morphed into what we have today. And it was made to order for the communist agenda. They jumped right into it. They just merged together back in the late 1800s, early 20th century.
Yes.
It all makes sense to me now.
Whatever word. Yep.
And the reason that I called in and pointed that out, what occurred to me about that, why can't I get a lawyer and sue the federal government on the grounds that they're violating my 14th Amendment right, which, by the way, was forced on me. So they should, above any other amendment, live up to that 14th Amendment, because the state of Georgia didn't get to ratify it. It was done under duress as a result of Lincoln's War. They are taking money from me and giving it away to other people who don't motivate themselves to get out and bloody their arms like I do to earn that money. They're violating my Fourth Amendment right because they're not giving me compensation in return for what they're taking away from me and giving to someone else. Why can't I sue them for that on those grounds?
Because they violated
the social contract. And that brings
contract.
us to the subject of your show, being the breakdown of the contract and the two-tier justice system. Hope I've done well, but that's what I had to offer.
You're perfect, man. Right on target. Anything else?
I don't understand. Well, I guess I do understand why it seems to me that most of my countrymen can't follow that logic and conclude that, conduct the reason that's required to draw these conclusions. They just can't seem to get out of the range of moment thinking. And I guess we were all conditioned that way. I don't know how I broke that mold. I don't know what the defect is in me that it didn't take.
Oh, I could give you the answer
to that. But I have met very few people like myself, and you're one of the very few that is at least as close. I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just a curse that was put on my shoulders.
Okay, Jimmy, you have literally set me up for my next Post-it note where I was heading in the show. Can you see the screen right now?
I'm going to butt out and listen.
No. Hold on. No. Stay for a minute. Stay for a minute. Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen?
I can't, because I'm using the phone that I listen to you on.
Alexis de Tocqueville, Democracy in America. You know about him, right? Okay.
Yeah, great
What
guy.
was the thing he was so amazed with was by the way the American people lived their social contract and the way they were committed not only to their ideals and principles, but to each other and their society. That just boggled his mind. That's where the social contract in this country first broke down. Not at our government level, but at the individual level, Jimmy. That's where we've
if he
broken
come
down.
back today, he would be amazed. The country is now just a collection of perpetual busybodies.
Yes. Karens and wannabe crybabies and woke Cheeto eating.
Oh my!
So
they can't govern
Jimmy.
their own lives, but they feel themselves qualified beyond everyone else to govern the lives of everyone else. That's what I take note. I started taking note of it when I was a cop.
This is beautiful because this explains the commission meeting I watched last week in our local community. We had a big blowout meeting, and this is exactly what was happening in that meeting. It was a total breakdown of the social contract.
Yeah.
At the societal level.
Yes. Yeah, societal level.
Okay.
Right.
Now, the other day, 2 weeks ago, I was at a Chick-fil-A. Now, hold on, Jimmy. You can leave if you want, but you might still have comment for this. So I know I don't know him personally, but I know that the gentleman who owns this franchise of the Chick-fil-A, he's been at it since Chick-fil-A came to Panama City. So 20, 30 years. Yeah, and he's a believer in everything. So he's a very nice, gentle man. You can tell by watching him. He's always happy. I caught him at a moment when I could talk to him and nobody could overhear us. And I said, look, I just want to ask you a question. I told him, I said, the sociologist in me is interested because you have a very unique perspective on this. Now, everybody has to understand the clientele that goes to Chick-fil-A is supposed to be, if you've ever been there, it's not a swap of the average of America. We're not dealing with Walmart clientele. Okay. I'm trying to be polite with this. I asked him, I said, you've been at this a long time and you are in a unique position. You have a unique clientele and a unique mindset with the way this business is run. I said, have you seen a change in the way people behave? And he immediately said, oh, definitely. He goes, yes. He goes, they don't care about nothing. They want it now. They're rude. They're self-centered. They're pushy. He says, I've seen it. And he says, and it's getting really hard to deal with. That, folks, is the total disintegration of the social contract amongst the American people themselves.
And now I can tell everyone exactly how they can experience it firsthand for themselves and see it in all of its glory. What you just pointed out, what he pointed out. Go to any Facebook group that deals with local current events in any community in America today and read the post where someone comes in and asks an honest, innocent question. Go and read the comments and what that thread will become.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yes.
It is a knock down, drag out melee of insults of every man against himself, and God help us, over an honest question somebody asked. Pardon my French, but the smartasses will swarm that thread and just turn it into a total cabal.
And John Quest just said
that is the reflection of our society today.
Yep. John Quest just put a comment up there. He said it's no longer, Woodrow freaking Wilson. It's we the freaking people.
Yeah.
Yes, we are our own worst enemy.
Wilson steered the ship that brought us to this destination. He's the one that started that idea of tearing down all of the pillars of that society, of that contract. And what that means in a nutshell is destroy all virtue, enshrine mediocrity, and destroy the excellence.
Which is destroying the pursuit of happiness.
And it's even simpler than that. All you have to do is go to your local grocery store and just observe people around you and how they behave themselves. You'll see carts in the middle of the row blocking the entire row, people oblivious to anyone around them because they're only focused on what they are doing. They're oblivious to any
Charlie, your audio, you cut out on us.
What happened?
Am I back?
He,
Sorry.
he's having
But
feed issues
Same
with his
thing.
internet.
Yeah, I have an internet problem. Sorry. Hopefully it'll be cleared up and be back.
Well,
Yeah.
I understand with the grocery store. Mine is the highway.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy,
Oh, that's even
you were a
worse.
police
Oh,
officer.
y'all will
You were a
love
police
this,
officer.
what I've got to tell about.
Okay, well, just let me ask you a quick question though. Has anybody noticed when I was younger, I knew if I'm towing a trailer, my booty belonged in the right-hand lane unless I was passing somebody, and then my booty belonged back in the right-hand lane. And if I was towing a trailer, I had no business speeding because I had to be able to maintain control of that vehicle. And it's not as easy to do with a trailer as it is just the vehicle. Has anybody noticed how many people will get themselves, even trucks, in the passing lane and just park there?
Yeah.
Or how
all
many
the time.
people they have no concern how many they're in the fast lane. They don't care how many people are behind them. Or they'll run a red light.
Well, how about
they don't
when someone
care.
ahead of you turns on their turn signal because they need to change lanes to make a turn and not miss their turn, and the
And you
people
won't let 'em
behind
in.
them will
Yep.
trip over themselves to accelerate to try to get past them before they can change their lane.
Yes. All of
And
these
people don't
things.
know how to
That-
merge anymore. If the merge lane's ending, they're coming in whether there's room or they'll run you right off the road
Now, here's
into the oncoming traffic.
And I'll let
It's
Jimmy
horrible.
give his story in just a
So
second.
last
But
week, I pulled
Go
up
ahead.
at the gas pump at Sam's in Albany, Georgia, to get gas to fill my truck up. And I pulled up behind this lady that's waiting in line, and the person in front of her is gassing up her truck at the first gas pump, and beyond that person pump. And what we're all waiting for is for this lady to finish so that two people can pull up straight ahead to that gas pump and gas their vehicles up. Common courtesy. It's how the lines work
Yes.
at Sam's generally. Y'all follow me?
yes. Yep.
What do
Yep.
you
She
This
took her
lady
time and
comes
didn't
into
move.
a lot, and she's one of those, you can watch her and tell she's one of those, you mentioned you were being nice about the Sam's, the Walmart population. She's of that ilk. She drives around everyone waiting in line and pulls up to that open gas pump, gets out of her truck and starts fiddling with the gas pump, trying to pump her gas. And guess what happens? Her card won't work. And she stood there at that gas pump for at least 15 minutes. And she finally ends up getting back in her truck and leaving, and never was able to purchase a drop of gas. It did my heart good, and I hope to God she ran out of gas before she found another pump.
All right. So
But
now,
that's
if
what
you're
it's become.
yes, now, folks, here's the point. I try to teach you, dig down deeper. Right now, we're all talking about different flavors of ice cream. What's the problem? Your traffic laws were never meant to give the government a reason to ticket you and make money. Your traffic laws are intended to do two things: to make organized flow of traffic. It was meant to behoove everybody on the road so that everybody knew a common set of rules by which we're supposed to conduct ourselves when we're driving, so that traffic flows smoothly and in an organized, predictable manner. And two, so that when you get in a wreck, we can determine liability. That's what they're meant for.
Yeah.
If we cannot agree on something as simple as the traffic rules, how in the blazes do you think we're going to agree on the governance of this country?
Well, that's the
Amen.
purpose of what is it the left preaches? There's a word for it. A mixture of all different kinds of people. What is the word for that?
Well, I can think of
Diversity. That was the purpose of the diversity movement. So that we are not thinking on the same values.
Exactly, to create chaos. Then they're going to enforce
Create
their
chaos.
common right, so that they can enforce their common values over top of it, which is the woke agenda.
But that was Woodrow Wilson's mode of operandi. He knew that communism would never be accepted in America, and the only way that he could get us into it is to smuggle it in piece by piece through incrementalism. And the only way he could accomplish that was to tear down the moral fabric of the population.
That's the 60s. That's what the 60s was all about. And then your illegal immigration is because even that didn't work, and they got impatient. So now they're importing people that are more easily controlled and more volatile, and not have the cultural
importing
background
the maggots, like the one that shot that ICE agent in New York City in an armed robbery last night.
Yes.
Have you heard
And
about
folks,
that one? That's the big news today.
yes, I did. Yes, I did. And there's been several that were set up. There have been several ICE agents that have been ambushed in military style. And folks, this is being egged on by the media and the political left. And the right is doing nothing about it. This is real, true constitutional sedition. Trump not only has the authority to stop this, he has a constitutional duty to stop this, and he's not doing it.
And he could shut it down by the end of the day today by following Lincoln's lead. Lincoln set the precedence.
Yes.
And if Trump were truly what he's trying to convince us that he is, he would have already done that.
Yes, because this is a case where he doesn't have the constitutional authority. He has a constitutional duty to put down sedition and insurrection. And this is an organized, publicly funded insurrection. Because folks, look, if somebody shuts something down in the government and it costs an NGO, a non-government organization, goes out of business because the government quit funding it, it wasn't a non-governmental organization. It was a black ops by the government.
Yep.
And
well, you've got sitting representatives, senators, and mayors not only egging these things on, but coming to their aid when they get arrested.
And that's sedition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is cut and dry, brother. But anyway, I need to get out of the way so you can get your show in. I'm going to run you out of time.
All right, brother.
I've enjoyed this one.
Thanks for calling, Jimmy.
Yes, sir.
Always enjoy it.
Take care.
Thank you, Jimmy. So, folks, this is a total breach of the social contract. The simplest rules no longer apply in our society. We have lost common courtesy for each other, which is a sign that we've lost respect for each other. We never do what's right anymore. We do what we want. We tell each other what's right for you is not right for me. What's true for you is not true for me. We can't even govern ourselves anymore. We don't follow our own personal code of ethics, if we even have one. This is, well, it's the Bible's a piece of doo-doo. Yeah, go read 2 Thessalonians 2, man. We are living in that age. Everybody is a god unto themselves. You're in the days of Noah. Okay? Why are you worried about the government when you got bigger problems? Can you govern your own household? Can you govern yourself? If you're a regular listener, you know darn well that this show is liable to throw you in the pew at any given moment. So I don't apologize for it. The scriptures teach you, first thing you got to learn to do is govern your own darn self, your own dumb doo-doo head. You've got to be able to govern the person in your mirror. And then if you have a household, you have to be able to govern your own household. Well, a lot of these children that are running around doing what they're doing, and by this, I mean all the way up to the age of 28 now, according to the Obama administration, or was it 26? They're never growing up because the parents don't raise adults. Our society has collapsed, and we don't even recognize it. We are living in idiocracy. We are living in the society of idiocracy. Rather than actually getting involved in a way that is productive for society, we'd rather sit around and watch that show about some guy walking around repeatedly getting himself kicked between the legs. Ow my blah, 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 ow my blank, ow my genitals. They used a slang word for it in that movie, but that was the biggest movie on their TV show. It's like, and you think we don't do that in reality? Do y'all remember the TV and movie shows called, The Donkey? I'm trying not to use bad language here. I've been told to watch my language, and I agree with the person who told me to watch what I'm saying and how I say it. But I guess it's actually a real word. But there was used Jackass. It was a movie, and it's the ice cream. It's the same thing out of the movie Idiocracy. We live there. We live in that world, and we run around telling ourselves that we are more advanced than any society that's ever been. Since when? Since when? And the sociologist in me looks at the cultures, the local government meeting that Charlie was talking to Mr. Zinker about. I know what it is. I don't follow it closely, but I'm aware of it. that devolved down into nothing but pure racism. And it's not whites against blacks. It's the other way around. I've told you before, in my view, true racism has to be sanctioned. Otherwise, it's just individual bigotry, sanctioned by the government or by society. So you have racism in this country now. You have true racism. But it isn't whites against blacks. It's blacks against whites. And it's being sanctioned, even by other whites. They are trying to create an apartheid system in this country. I don't care what color your skin. That's a violation of the social contract of this nation. We are in total moral bankruptcy. And we look to the government. We complain about that. Physician, heal thyself. So what's next? What's next? If you've got a destroyed society, how do you fix it? What do we do? I honestly don't know. I know this. Monitor behind me just blue screened to death, folks. This is Washington and there's debate about whether or not he actually said this. It's in keeping with his character. And I know Jefferson is in some of his writings, he echoed this. So if nothing else, it's the thought in and around the time of the founding fathers. But it says, let us raise a standard to which the wise and honest can repair. The rest is in the hands of God, the Almighty. Okay. So do we have such a standard in this country? I don't know. I think we do, but could we raise it? Does anybody even have any idea what that means? I don't think so. I really don't. Let me dump this out of here. We're going to have garbage in the back of the screen here, folks, because that laptop is just dead. I'm going to have to do something about that. It's not one thing, it's another. So where do we go from here? Washington said for us to raise a standard that the honest, good men can repair to. First things first, what is the purpose of the law? Let's go back to the beginnings. The law, Frederick Bastiat, one of the most important little books I have ever read. And if you're not careful, it'll prompt another phone call from Mr. Zinker, because he's like me. He loves this book. There's a free PDF version of it, and I just shared the link with this for you in the comment section. At least I think I did. Frederick Bastiat tells you what the law should do. And primarily, it's about protecting your property, because your property is your life. And his good read is surprisingly easy to understand, too. So Natasha's read it. And it's a quick read. It's not very long. You could do it easily in an hour or so if you're a decent reader. But it'll get you thinking for the rest of your life. So if we want to look at this secularly, without God, you have to, and then you're going to have a hard time doing that, because Bastiat comes from a Lockean idea of thinking, and he ties all of this to the Creator. But that's the first place we have to go, to Bastiat. What's the law supposed to do? The law is supposed to protect the individual's property, because if you are not safe in your property, you're not safe at all. If I can never trust that I have a place to live, or I own my clothing or my food, or that I have a right to my labor to seek shelter and clothing and food, everything else is irrelevant. So we have to repair to that. But to me, my way of thinking, I'm looking at the men who actually did this. Who are the only people to actually ever create a truly, or at least the closest man has ever come, self-governing rule of law? Well, it was the founding fathers of this nation. Well, this is from The Road to Concord. In the upper left-hand side, it'll give you the founding documents, everything. So you just got to follow the links. But this is a quote from John Jay. at the time. This is from a speech to the American Bible Society on May 9th, 1822, while he was seated as the first Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. And he says, no human society has ever been able to maintain both order and freedom, both cohesiveness and liberty, apart from the moral precepts of the Christian religion, applied and accepted by all classes. Should our republic ever forget this fundamental precept of governance, men are certain to shed their responsibilities for licentiousness, and this great experiment will then surely be doomed. That's him. That's what he said. I will say this over and over again. I will read this over and over again. Here in red, the revolution was effected before the war commenced. The revolution was in the minds and hearts of the people. A change in their religious sentiments of their duties and obligations. This radical change in the principles, opinions, sentiments, and affections of the people was the real American Revolution. And from another one of his quotes, the general principles on which the founders achieved independence were the general principles of Christianity. And then finally, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the governance of any other. This is all John Adams, the Atlas of the Revolution. And he's telling us without a common Christian, or he chose Christianity, but without a common religious ethos that all the people can agree on, you're not going to live independently. You're not going to live free. So, well, what's that got to do with any of the social contract? Simple. The social contract that the founding fathers created was founded upon the principles of Christianity. The social contract of the progressive or the Marxist is founded upon the principles of God is humanity. Man is his own God. That's those principles. If you're going to follow Hinduism, it's Hindu principles. If you're going to follow Islam, it's Islamic principles. But we've got diversity, which means we're all at war with each other. We're being balkanized, which means division. Diversity is division, right? Doublespeak. We are now in the world of 1984. This is part of what I mean by the social contract has been broken. We can't even agree on what the word means anymore. If we can't agree on the language, how are we ever going to communicate? And if we cannot communicate, how are we ever going to agree? And if we can't agree, how are we ever going to live in an orderly society, let alone a free one? We have been set up for dictatorship, and it's already showing itself in the form of the Supreme Court. The president wants to do something that the Constitution clearly says is his authority and his authority alone, and he's got to run hat in hand to the Supreme Court. Hey, please, sir, let me do the job that the Constitution says I can do. Why is he doing that? It's all political theater. It's kabuki theater. Even if Trump didn't understand this, he's got good people around him who do. He should tell the Supreme Court to pound sand. Well, Joe, that would be a constitutional crisis. What Constitution? It's already been broken. It's been violated. And I mean to the point that it is no longer in effect. If I'm a Democrat, I can break the law all I want unless other Democrats get mad at me. Then I get prosecuted. Otherwise, I can just straight up commit treason in full view of the entire American people, and half the country will defend me. That's a violation to ourselves, to our families, to each other in our communities, in our states and society at large, and the nation. How do you fix that? There is an answer. I do know how it gets fixed. We'll get to that in the second hour. You ain't going to like this answer. It is not that the Declaration of Independence first organized the social compact on the foundation of the Redeemer's mission upon earth, or is it not that it laid the cornerstone of human government upon the first precepts of Christianity? The highest glory of the American Revolution was this: it connected in one indissoluble bond the principles of civil government with the principles of Christianity. John Quincy Adams, there from the beginning, serving his country since he was 9 years old. This one, we have this day restored the sovereign to whom all men ought to be obedient. He reigns in heaven, and from the rising to the setting sun, let his kingdom come. Samuel Adams upon the signing of the Declaration of Independence. The founders' words on the essential role of religion in the public civil life. We've got this one here. John Quincy Adams, the Declaration of Independence, first organized. We read that one. Cuban Christianity, John Adams. All of these men told us it's upon the Bible. Here, the biblical concepts built into the Declaration and the Constitution, the providence of God, the providence of the Creator. This means that God takes an active role in the affairs of man and works his will through them and their actions. The law of God, the law of the Creator. This includes revealed law, but also natural law. The law of nations, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 10, derived from Christian thinkers Grotius, Fundorf, and Vattel, by using logical extension of God's natural and revealed laws. The equality of man, a biblical notion based on the fact that all men are created in God's image. God-given rights, again, based on creation of man in God's image. Government secured rights, not grants them. Government secures them, not grants them, based on the scriptural assertion that God is sovereign and that he defined the relationship between the governed and the government, as well as the proper limits of both civil and religious authority, and that is in the Bible. Government by consent of the governed. God told Moses to have the people select leaders, and scripture repeatedly says the people elect their leaders or choose their leaders. It's representative. The judges was a representative form of government at the time of judges, when the king was still God, before they wanted a human king. The sinful nature of man requires the checks and balances. That's why they're there. This is stated in Genesis. All socialist systems are based on the notion that man can perfect himself, the unconstrained view of humanity. The founder's system was based on the biblical assertion that man is hopelessly flawed and that government should be constrained in such a way as to account for and protect against the avarices of men, the unconstrained vision of humanity. The three branches of government, according to James Madison, this comes directly from Isaiah 33:22. For the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king. It is he who will save us. Limited delegation and delegated powers. God defined the roles that civil government was to play. That's in the books of Moses. And set the boundaries outside of which it is not to step. Rights of criminal defendants, again, defined by God as dictated to Moses. This was revolutionary in the time of Moses. Leviticus and Deuteronomy, the principles in there, that was unheard of in some cases throughout the rest of the world, the known world. In the Constitution, you will find that it ties the poor man is in ties in court. The poor man is supposed to be given the decision. This is another biblical teaching, and the Bible does teach you that. Property rights established by God in Genesis, again and then again in Exodus. The sanctity of the contract, Article 1, Section 10, Paragraph 1. That's a biblical principle. God makes many covenants with his people, and he even gives them rights in under these covenants. If one reads scripture carefully, one finds that God even gives the people a right to demand of him, but only if and when they have met every duty that is theirs under the covenant. Two witnesses for capital punishment, Article 3, Section 3, Paragraph 1, a biblical principle. No corruption of blood, Article 3, Section 3, Paragraph 2, a biblical principle. Keeping the Sabbath, Article 1, Section 7, Paragraph 2, a biblical commandment. All of these things are written into your Constitution. That's our banner to repair to. But good luck, because you're not going to be able to, you can't find Christians that agree on anything anymore. Social contract has been destroyed. It's toast, man. What are we going to do? What's next? Well, we'll come back and we'll talk about that after the break. Charlie, I got the break today. I think we're going to leave it with our man, Patrick. So you're going to have a 5-minute break, folks. Back in your seat in 5 minutes. I think.
Gentlemen, there is no longer any ground for hope. If we wish to be free, if we wish to preserve inviolate those inestimable privileges which belong to us as free men. If we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, in which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our struggle be obtained, then we must fight. I repeat it, sir. We must fight. They appeal to arms, and to the God of hosts is all we have left us.
Arms, Mr. Henry? What arms? We're weak, sir.
They tell us, sir, that we are weak, unable to cope with so powerful an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be the next week? Or the next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed and a British Guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying supinely on our backs, hugging the delusive phantom of hope until our enemy hath bound us hand and foot? Sir, we are not weak if we make a proper use of those means the God of nature hath placed in our power. 3 millions of people, armed in the holy cause of liberty, and in such a country that which we possess, are invincible by any force our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sirs, we have no election. Should we be base enough to desire it, it is now already too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat, but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged, their clanking may be heard upon the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat it, sir, let it come!
Mr. We speak for peace, sir!
It is in vain to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that blows from the north shall bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that they wish? What would they have? Is life so dear? Or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God! I know not what course others may take. But as for me, give me liberty or give me death!
Two arms, Mr. Henry!
Muted, my friend.
Okay,
There you
I got
go.
everything to work now. Why did I play that? Wasn't to rile you up. Wasn't get your blood boiling. Not this time. I want you to think back if you watched the video or if you've watched it before. Patrick Henry did something in that speech that a lot of us are afraid to do. First thing he did is he acknowledged the truth. He looked the monster in the eye. The war had already begun. The next thing he did is he acknowledged the duty to others, to his fellow countrymen. He was not willing to let them fight the struggle on his behalf. He acknowledged a duty. And then to whom did he appeal for his entire argument? God. That is essentially the formula that the founding fathers used. Yes, they acknowledged the protection of the individual, but they never once ignored the duty we have to each other and to society and even to ourselves. You have a duty. We don't want to perform or execute those duties anymore. We want to be rid of them, the responsibility. So why do you even want to live free? The social contract, or however you want to do it, we live in a lawless country now. It's might makes right now. And you can't trust anything. You can't trust videos. You can't trust that people mean what they say. You can't trust that a contract is valid. They break them all the time. You can't trust a will. You can't trust a person's promise. There's nothing you can trust. Nothing in this world. There's nothing left. The ground has turned into quicksand. How do you rebuild that? I told you before that this is what they want. They want that type of a world so that you'll live in fear, and then they can give you a solution. They've created the problem to give you the solution they've already got. This, and I can't get even the people who claim to be woke, really awake. They've seen the Matrix. They're out of it. They're not part of it anymore. Most of them actually still are. I just saw a post just today. Those people of you who thought QAnon was a joke, you're about to see something big now. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I fell for it. I did. I fell for QAnon during the election in 2020, but because I wanted to. I wanted it to be true. Now I realize it's just part of the psyop to keep those who might have actually questioned what was going on, keep them hopeful in something else long enough to get done what they were doing. What's going to happen to us next? I don't know. I know what has to happen. I know history. I know sociology. This is a cultural rot. We are a dead nation walking. We're dead inside. We're spiritually dead. We just haven't fallen down. And we think because our body breathes that we're not dead. Yes, you are. America's lost its soul. You're dead. You lost your spirit. You lost your purpose. You lost your goal, aim. We're no longer the great shining city on the hill. We justify everything we want to do. Today, we justify, gray being the best color in the world, and tomorrow we'll justify purple. They say, well, yesterday you said it was gray. Yeah, today is Oceana. Tomorrow it's whatever. The enemy changes overnight, and you're living in 1984, and you're numbed with drugs and entertainment, free sex. So it's the brave new world, 1984, all mashed together. Nobody cares. I'm going to tell you this. If I had a paywall, I'd give you a show. If you watch this show for any length of time and you think that I have ever done a show that was scary, boys and girls, you ain't seen nothing yet. What do you think the show would be like if I told you that you have a godless people without hope, and you have people in the world who have control over genetic manipulating CRISPR gene splicing technology, mRNA technology, technology that can change your genome in your body, change the way your body works. They have access to some of the most sophisticated biochemical weapons in the world. They have access to absolutely amazing drone technology Technology where a drone is as small as a mosquito, or a drone the size of a dragonfly that can be designed to kill a specific person. And they have the internet and 5G technology, and they have AI, and they want to erase the population of the world. I know how to do it. I could kill a city of 25 million people. I could eradicate it overnight for less than $1 million. And I would leave everything in place. I wouldn't destroy a single thing. I'd just kill the people. And it's all done with drone technology. You have these things in the hands of people who think that they are God. And when you think you're God, there's nothing that's going to, not only do they think they're God, they think they have to save humanity from itself by getting rid of humanity. They're fornicating for chastity. Unfortunately, if there is no God, that's what has to happen in order to reset. But you're going to get a world that's reset according to their desires, and man will destroy himself, and we will wink out. If there's no creator, humanity is on the precipice of extinction by his own hand. I happen to believe that there is a creator. His name is Yahweh. He will not allow this to continue. He can't, because we will destroy ourselves, which will invalidate his promises and prophecies. So one way, shape, form, or another, we're going to live to see his hand move. Will he come back? I don't know. But we're going to see him do something that's in former times would be called a miracle, an act of God on the level of the Exodus. But as far as saving ourselves, we've already missed the off-ramp. It's over. I'm not defeatist. I'm not. I'm looking at what I have in front of me, all the puzzle pieces, and I just put them together. And the puzzle picture that I have now says we're toast. We're done. We can't fix ourselves. Does that make me defeatist because I recognize the hand of history repeating itself? No. Not in my book. It makes me a realist. I'm not giving up. If I was giving up, do you think I'd be here today? If I thought it was toast and hopeless, man, then eat, drink, and be merry, for today or tomorrow we die. No, I'm not there. I just seem to think that the only place that we can affect any change is in our mirror and in the people in the world directly around us that, for whatever reason, like or respect us enough to listen to us. And then we can help teach them, if for nothing else, but through our example, how we live. Spurgeon's ringing in my ear, as a good Christian. Preach that gospel every day as hard as you can. If you have to, use your words. What he's saying is live it. Walk the walk. Well, I'm not just talking religiously here, man. I'm talking about be a good citizen. Stand for righteousness. Now, when Mr. Zinker called in, he said, what is it about him that he can see this and others can't? There are a group of people in this world we're told are going to be drawn to the truth, capital T truth. Well, that's that spark of the creator. I'm not telling you, we're not doing salvation theology here right now. I'm just telling you, you're going to be drawn to the truth. You're going to try to understand it the best you can. Objective truth. You're going to try to see the truth as clearly as you can through the trees and the forest and all the bushes. You want to get a higher view of it and try to understand as much as you can, the best you can. Well, if you're drawn to that truth, you're going to understand things differently than the rest of the world, and you're going to accept them for what they are. You're not going to hide from reality. So in our case, the reality is we've got a dead country. Maybe you've seen the movie, the TV series, or the Amazon series, The Expanse, sci-fi TV series. It's based on a series of books. I've read them all. One of the characters in that show, Amos Burton, he calls it the churn. The moving of history when when things just turn upside down and up becomes down, down becomes up, and then society has to reorder itself. Well, if you're looking at it secularly, we might say, so to speak, we're going through the churn. I think we're going through a spiritual time in which the creator of this universe is about to act. The scriptures would call it Day of the Lord, and it doesn't necessarily have to be his return and judgment day. It's any day he acts. I happen to see everything the scriptures told me thousands of years ago. They told me that there was a time such as this coming, and here it is. Now, for me, I don't have to use any hammers to make the pieces fit. I don't have to manipulate them. It is a literal interpretation of what the Bible told me to look for, if you understand how to read the Bible. But now, if the sociologist in me jumps into this, and I just put all religious matters aside, I see nothing but social decay and rot. Nothing can be unified anymore. We don't have common traditions. We don't have common values. We don't have a common language. Even if we're all speaking English, we don't have a common language anymore. You have to have a progressive filter to understand progressive English. We have the ideas of what the founding fathers believed. Well, most conservatives think they do. No, they don't. It's one of the reasons I quit being a conservative is I started reading the founding fathers. Found out same thing. When I started reading the Bible, I realized I'm not a Christian. When I started reading the founding fathers, not the history books, the founding fathers, I realized I'm not a conservative. Or I can't be. Not if I'm going to adhere to their ideals and principles. This is why we urge you in this show to put down something of a personal individual philosophy, a worldview, a standard to which you can repair. Something for yourself that when you get off track, you can go back to it and get yourself fixed again. Mr. Zinker's pretty good at that. I'm not. So I adopted the Bibles. Now I'm trying to understand what the scripture teaches me so that I can let it fix me when I get astray. It tells me when I'm astray. It tells me when I'm back on track. I needed something higher than myself. I'm just talking about Joe right now. I'm not God. I know enough to realize that I'm far from it. So I'm like Amos Burton in the Expanse. He's an individual who struggles to know what's right and wrong in any given situation. So he looks around and he finds people that seem to do the right thing all the time and he attaches himself to them. That's how I had to do this. And it's probably because the way I'm broken. So I've attached myself to scripture. I don't know what you attach yourself to. All I know is if you attach yourself to you've already lost. You screwed up. No, you're saying you're a perfect person. Nobody is. If you attach yourself to reason, okay, the best you understand reason, I at least that's an objective standard. Even for you, from your perspective, it'll be objective. Even if it's, you've come up with a system of reason that the outside world would say is skewed, but to you, as long as it's fixed and as long as you understand that you're not allowed to change it to fit your whims, okay, from your perspective, you have an objective standard. Okay, that's like Ayn Rand. I can at least agree with her most of the time. I see where she's coming from, and she can correct herself if you use her standard. So, okay, I got that. But most people bounce around from day to day, totally rudderless, without a compass, without a northern star. They're governed by their whims and their feelings and their appetites. And all they want is what they want. And they want somebody else to do it with them to have no cost for it, no penalty. Well, the universe says there's no such thing as a free lunch. This is why they vote for socialism, get the government to give you what you've made. If you want to have any security in yourself and in your property, you must have respect for another person's property. If you want your speech to be heard, you must respect the free speech of another person. Well, the left is real good for this. They're all in for respecting freedom of speech. They're just horrified to find out that somebody has a different opinion than them. They like the idea of free speech so long as you agree with them. As soon as they discover that people don't disagree, well, now that's false information. It's got to be censored. Well, if I'm for free speech, I must allow these people to talk, even though I hate them. Well, if you want personal property, you must allow the billionaire to have his or hers. If you want your life, you must allow them to have theirs. If you want to be free in your life, you must allow them to be free as well. If you cannot, or better yet, will not do that, you won't have those things in return, and you don't deserve them either, because you're an animal. You are an animal, and you deserve to be treated as such by civilized society. Why did we quit executing murderers? Well, you might get an innocent person. I might. You know what would happen to me when I was younger? If I had found myself on death row, innocent. I'm innocent and I'm on death row. When I was younger, I would have just been beside myself with the injustice. I've grown up. I'd tell you I'm innocent to my death. Be my last words. But my last words would be, I know I'm innocent. I know you don't believe me. I know you're supporting the system. So I sacrifice myself to the system so that your society may continue willingly. Because if I agreed with the society and its system, and I gave my consent to it, then that must prevail, even if an injustice is done. But then I believe in an eternal judgment day where all wrongs will be righted and paid for and all tears dried. Franklin believed in that. Franklin said there's no system of morality in the world without that belief. This is why the founding fathers did not allow atheists, what they called infidels, to serve in government. Most of the people in our government today, the founding fathers would have never allowed to take office. Because without a belief in an eternal judgment, in an eternal penalty, there's nothing to keep you in check. You won't constrain yourself. So all these socialists running around, well, the rich don't, I want my fair share. What is your fair share? What were you born into where the universe put a sign up in the sky? This person's fair share is blah, blah, blah. That's an artificial construct. The women's basketball, women NBA, WNBA, we want our fair share. Well, good. You owe the WNBA a whole heck of a lot of money because you guys ain't never made a penny. It's all lawlessness. It's all lawlessness and licentiousness. And it deserves to be judged. It deserves it. Where do we say that now? Where do we stick our little paw up in the air and say, this is my fault? I did this, or I did that, or I deserve what I'm getting. Where? I mean, that's why the thief on the cross, the one that Jesus said, you're going to be with me today in paradise. He said, we deserve this. Told the other thief, we deserve this. He doesn't. He's innocent. How many of us amongst us today will admit when we're guilty of something and that we're getting what we deserve? You want to fix what's wrong with today, you've got to fix yourself. That requires work. We don't want to work. We want it free. You show me something in the universe that's free. Anything. Outside of religion. And even in the Bible, grace is free. Grace will get you into the kingdom, but it won't keep you there. The Bible doesn't teach free salvation. It doesn't teach that anywhere. That's man dreaming that up. You have to learn to obey. Just like if you want the United States to work and function properly, you have to learn to obey the principles the founders built it upon. We don't want to obey anything. We point this finger at that person, that finger at the Republicans. Well, that guy's a rhino. No, he is not, or she's not. They're Republicans. They ran under the R. They got elected under the R. They're doing exactly what the party wants them to do. They're Republicans. They're not rhinos. What you're actually saying is you're not doing what I want you to do. Well, then quit voting for that party. It's got a long history. It does this all the time. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What about when they fooled you 500 times? Go away. I don't want to hear you talking to me anymore. You are just as bad as the Democrats. And I'm not talking to the Democrats because I believe that they've already been given over to their depravity. If you today, in this day and age, are willingly a Democrat, a member of the Democratic Party, and you want to tell me you're still a good person, you're claiming to be a good Nazi. You know that argument here. There were no good Nazis. The party was corrupt. The platform. So if you willingly, and you had to accept, you had to seek membership in the Nazi party. Well, guess what? You have to seek membership in the Democratic Party. So if you're doing that now, you're just as depraved as they were. I think you're beyond hope. Short of the Holy Spirit fixing you, you're toast as far as humanity should be concerned. But if you're a Republican, you're heading down the exact same track that they went. The Democrats before you, you're just a couple cars back, Jack. Why do I say that? It's simple. I look at what your party does, not what it says. And it does the same thing that the Democrats have done and claims victory for it, or washes its hands of not doing anything and saying, I need more Republicans. And then when you elect them, they say, oh, they're just rhinos. Oh, my God, more rhinos. Well, why'd you vote for rhinos? They weren't rhinos. They're Republicans. Wake up, smell the coffee. What are we going to do? You don't vote your way out of socialism. You can't. You're already there. You don't vote your way out of tyranny. You can't. You don't vote your way out of chaos. You can't. Did the founding fathers vote themselves out of the situation they were in? No. So why are you looking for other people to give you a simple solution that doesn't cost you anything more than your vote? What's wrong with you? And then why are you looking to try and get answers to fix something that we can't fix? Can you fix the heart of humanity? I can't. If you think you can, you're a very good progressive. Get off this show. I don't want you here. I think the Creator can do it if he wants to. But man can't. No human being. Just plain human being. Yeshua was a human being, but he wasn't a plain human being. There was more to him. We don't have that. We're not God. So part of the problem that we have today, those of us who are seeking for answers, the problem is that we've set the equation up wrong. We've left out the most important variable, person in our mirror. So what are we going to do now that the social contract is broken? I honestly don't know. Because I don't know how to reunite this society when there isn't even a society to unite. There are subcultures, but there isn't a unified society anymore. The melting pot's been destroyed. So what have I done personally? I've turned to the only group I might be able to affect, and the only one that I care to try, the remnant. And even they have problems. But I was equipped to help those sheep if they'll listen. So rather than hide my talent under a rock, I'm going to try and use it the best I know how, pleading and begging for his guidance and wisdom the whole way to do what it is I believe he's equipped me to do at this day and age. So I guess, as for me and mine, we're going to serve Yahweh. What are you going to do? If you think you can save this world, Yahweh bless you. God bless. Knock yourself out. Good luck. I don't think you understand the extent of the problem anymore. Case in point, we put Obama in jail and Hillary and all his administration. What have you solved? Nothing. You just tit for tatted what they try to do to Trump. So if they get back in power, they're going to tit for tat even harder. Sooner or later, somebody's going to seize the pendulum. And you have tyranny, open tyranny. What's solved? Now, don't get me wrong. If we don't start putting these people in jail, you're never going to regain trust in this government. It's illegitimate now. Nobody trusts it. How do you get trust back? Well, for one thing there, Trump, you give everybody everything there is to be, well, in the Epstein case. Well, the deep state destroyed it. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Anything and everything that has ever been created electronically in any way, shape, or form, if it was ever digitized in any way, it is sitting in Colorado with the NSA. I guarantee you. You ever notice when they talk about the intelligence agencies, they never talk about no such agency? That's because that's the really dangerous one. CIA, child's play compared to the NSA. They have everything, and they never destroy a thing. So don't tell me, Mr. Trump, that it doesn't exist. It does. Dump it all. You were told that Julian Assange, or whatever, the WikiLeaks people, the biggest enemies in the world. I now seem to understand that they were actually, those people who divulged the secrets, they're the biggest heroes that we've had in our lifetime. Because if it cannot survive in the light of day, it doesn't deserve to survive. So you want trust back, you're going to have to put everything out on the table in the open. If you're wronged somewhere, admit it, confess your sin, which Trump has never done and probably never will, because his words, I've never done anything wrong. And then you ask for forgiveness. And you hope the American people give it to you. If you're sincere, they usually do. But then you have to start paying the penalty, even if you happen to be one of the ones that have to pay the penalty. That's the only way we're going to get trust back. Now, personally, I expect to win the lottery 16 times before the end of tonight, before any of that happens. You may be more of an optimist than me. Not a happy, happy show. But then we don't live in happy, happy times. You know that curse? May you live in interesting times? It's a Chinese curse. Everybody cuts off the second half of it. And may you get everything you've ever wanted. I had a dream one time. It was horrifying. It's like I got caught in a loop and I kept reliving the exact same life over and over again. And every time the life ended, I'd wake back up in my 14-year-old bedroom. I've got all the memories of several lifetimes, but I start all over again from the age 14. Think about that now. You're older than your parents. You know more than them. You knew them as an adult. You knew them all the way up until when they died. You know their flaws. And now all of a sudden you got to live under their roof, and you're 200 years old and you got to do everything they tell you to do. That was a nightmare. You're back in 9th or 10th grade. That's a nightmare. But in this dream, everything I touched turned to gold. Everything I wanted just came to me. And at the end of the dream, there's a man sitting there in a suit, double-breasted suit. He's just kind of leaning up against nothing. It's like I'm in a room where there's just him and I, and there's nothing else. Not black, not white, just kind of like nothing. And he asks me, he's kind of laughing. He's got a smile on his face. He's kind of chuckling at me. And he goes, "Smart as you think you are, you haven't figured it out yet, have you?" And I ask him, I said, "Figured out what?" And he kind of chuckles and he says, "You let me know when you figure out that you're actually in hell." And I said, "What?" And he just laughs. And then I see my family around my deathbed. And he's over my shoulder now and he says, "To them, you just died. But I had lived 6 lifetimes. And everything I'd ever wanted, I'd had gotten. But it had all become meaningless. It had no meaning." May you live in interesting times and get everything you've ever wanted. Is hell. See, in the dream, I was in hell. Got everything I wanted. And nothing had any meaning and no satisfaction and no pleasure. Nothing. And I guess the guy I was talking to was the devil. And when he was done, I woke back up in my 14-year-old bedroom again. And that's when I woke from the dream or nightmare. Ever since, I've kind of figured that that's a warning to me. Hope it's not a premonition. Charlie, talked out, brother.
Yeah, I hate this show. But unfortunately, it's reality. And sometimes, like you say, we've got to turn around and look the monster in the eyeballs and see the drool coming down out of his mouth and feel it on our face. And, we got to deal with it. Because if we don't, he's still going to eat us.
Mm-hmm.
But if you at least turn around and face him, you can at least maybe try to grab him by the throat and like that frog with the stork or whatever, trying to grab him by the throat.
If nothing else, you can take a swing at him and make him kill you quickly.
That's right. So, we got to do something. And that, that was the thing in that the local commission meeting that I watched last week. The thing that irked everybody in that meeting was the indecisiveness of the committee. That meeting went on for over 3 hours. They had motion upon motion that was either, didn't pass or didn't get a second or whatever. And no decision was made until the very end. They finally came to a resolution and a decision was made. And of course, there's still fallout from that. But they finally had the backbone to actually stand up for something and make a decision. And that's where we're at in life. We can sit there and just tread water like you were in that dream, just going over and over and over again and accomplishing absolutely nothing. But if you are grounded and you stand your ground, kind of like, you did the Patrick Henry thing at the break there. He stood his ground. He stood up and he said, I'm not taking this anymore. I'm taking a stand. Are you with me or against me? Either, I can't say that on the show.
You have to plant yourself like a tree beside still waters and say this far and no farther.
No more. Right. Yep. And that's really what we got to do. And are there enough of us willing to do that? Probably not. But for those that do,
but courage is
for
contagious.
Those that do, will make a difference. Maybe not in the entirety of society, but at least within your sphere of influence. And that's what we're called to do, in my opinion. We're not all called to be great, president of the United States or, whatever, but within your sphere of influence, if you are doing those things, I think that's where, hopefully, if I understand things correctly, when you get up to that big judgment bar, he's going to look at you and say, well done, thou good and faithful servant.
Yeah, there was a carpenter from Galilee that taught his people to just worry about changing the influence of the people around them. And
Right.
He changed the course of all humanity.
He did. Yeah. His influence was very, very small, really, in retrospect. He wasn't a great leader or anything. In fact, he stood up to the leaders in the government of the time. That's what actually got him killed.
Got himself killed.
So
folks, Gandhi followed Yeshua's example. He even said so. So did Martin Luther King. And what did the scriptures actually teach? The scriptures teach you to change yourself. Right. They tell you how to or what to do, but they teach you change yourself.
Gandhi had a quote that I've heard, at least I think this is his quote. I've heard it, so I haven't verified this, but he said, I like your Christ, but I do not like your Christians.
Well, it wasn't just Gandhi, it was also George Bernard Shaw.
Yeah.
Several people have
Because
said it.
basically what they're saying is, the things that are written about Christ, great stuff, but you guys aren't walking this out. You're not following his example.
Now, if you're politically motivated, I like your talk, MAGA. I just don't like your representatives or your MAGA members because y'all never do what you claim you want to do.
Right. Yeah.
We're principled. We want to hold people accountable, unless it's Cheeto Jesus.
Right. And that's the thing. Yeah, that's what I was going to say is, people might get upset with us on this show because, we're not mega, but, I was hopeful when I voted for Trump. I was hoping that he would
So was I.
stand up, because in his first presidency, he did fairly well at following through with his campaign promises. This time, not so much. I mean, he's put out the facade of fulfilling campaign promises, but in reality, everything he has done, with very few exceptions. I mean, there's a few things maybe in a couple things that have recently passed, but hardly any of this has been codified into law. And most of it is through executive orders that as soon as the next president is elected, within, like Trump did, I don't know, 200 or whatever executive orders in the first, day or so of being in office, the next president can do that same thing and undo everything he's done. So where are we? We didn't get anywhere. We're in that cycle we've been talking about. We're just spinning our wheels and getting nowhere.
If you don't see the principle here, just hold on, Charlie. I want you to think of something. Charlie, how many times have the progressives gotten themselves in trouble and then they throw us a squirrel? Something else hits okay.
All the time. That's their modus operandi.
Trump he was destroying his support over this Epstein thing.
Oh, yes.
And all of a sudden, he found the paperwork that allows him to go arrest Barack Obama. I mean, it just suddenly showed up. Y'all miss the fact that he threw you a squirrel to get out from underneath the truck he ran himself over with?
Yep. Squirrel!
Well, if you didn't see it, if you didn't see what he did, then congratulations, you're just as much of a drone as the Democrats. If you did see it, why are you not pointing your finger at Trump and telling him quit acting like a progressive?
Yeah. Squirrel. Yep.
Anyhow, I'm all done.
I'm just looking to see if this comment needs to be put up. I don't think. Okay. Yeah. But yeah.
Okay, all together now. Ren and Stimpy. Happy, joy.
Happy, joy. Yeah. Don't worry. Be happy.
But anyhow, we'll be back on Wednesday if you join us on Wednesdays for We Were Lost.
I think you'll like that show better.
We'll be finishing up in the book of Hebrews. And then Friday.
Friday,
we got a show.
Friday.
Charlie.
And by the way, Friday, I want to put this out so that we mention this multiple times. Friday's show is at minimum R-rated. Okay. So if you got children around, do not watch it when your children are around.
And
I mean, it's not horrible, but we're going to be talking about adult topics. Let's just put it that way.
It's scripture.
And this is that. I'm just going to say, I don't think
Charlie, are you going to be wearing your flak jacket again?
Well, yeah. Let me just a teaser to this. When I presented this topic, and I'm expanding on it a little bit more for the show, but when I gave this address in our congregation, I actually donned my bulletproof jacket as an object lesson when I presented it at a congregation. I probably won't do that for the show because people can't shoot me through the screen, but they can look me up and find my address. So I do have it around. But with that said, yes, Sunset of the Western Church, that's what started me on this thing. But I can't ever remember a time in my life that the Holy Spirit has hit me on the head so hard than this one. Because, when sometimes, I'll get inspiration for a message and, it'll be, oh, okay, that's a good idea for a message, and I'll start working on it. Well, he did that. And then just a few days later in our personal scripture study, because my wife and I read from the Bible every day, we read those very same scriptures just a few days later. And my wife and I actually had a little discussion about it. And I'm like, oh, okay, second witness. So, okay, this is something I need to pay attention to. Then that following weekend, when I'm mowing the yard, I'm listening to podcasts and stuff. And lo and behold, the podcast I was listening to, very same message. So this was three times, three witnesses of Yahweh saying, you need to address this. And I'm like, okay, this is one better than Gideon. So I'm like, I'll do it. But
the one thing I'm going to warn you, if you join us Friday for Friday's show, if you let yourself get caught up in looking at the trees, you're going to miss the forest. This is a case of don't get caught on the flavor. Look at the ice cream.
Yes.
It's about spiritual warfare.
It is all about spiritual warfare. And oh boy, I'm still working through. He showed you the Sunset of the Western Church. There's a follow-on book to that called Demons in the Church. Yeah, that one's even more. And I haven't even finished that one yet. I'm going to try to finish that before Friday, because I may pull some more things in and add to the presentation perhaps with that. But we're going to be having some real conversations here about spiritual warfare, because folks, this show is kind of a good example of this. I'm sorry we're going into the pulpit here, but
don't apologize.
This is exactly what the reason is. I believe that I was prompted to give this address is because that's the problem with society right now, is we are ignoring the spiritual side of things. We are so materialistic. We're all me. Gotta have my stuff. And to heck with anyone else. I gotta have my stuff. That's not what's contained in that book that Joe is holding there.
Our problem is, I believe in all of this except that verse. And I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I believe in the Constitution except for that. Or that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The Constitution is a living document. No, there are
not the way they mean
basic. There are basic principles in there that we've got to live by if we want to keep the social contract. But we haven't. We have done just like the children of Israel when they were wandering in the wilderness. They were given the 10 commandments, and immediately they turned around and had Aaron create this golden calf and said, we're going to worship Yahweh our way. That's where we're at today. It's the very same attitude. We're going to live this life our way. We're going to be our own gods. We are not going to bow to Yahweh. And that's where we're at.
We're going to end this show with this. Just hold on, Charlie.
Sure.
As in the days of Noah, the people broke the contract with God at that point. There was only one righteous man left.
Only one. Oh, but there were eight.
How do we fix things here today, Joe? Yeah, it was one righteous man. How do we fix things in our world today, Joe? How did Yahweh fix it then? All right, that's it. Everybody out of pool.
Yep.
And be careful with that, folks, because the next one comes by fire.
Yes, it does.
And if it doesn't matter to you that you've got people in our government and around the world that are screaming for nuclear war, yes, they have. They've been saying it. Then you're not paying attention.
And folks, may it be soon, from my perspective anyway.
And by the way, fire. It's not like the entire ring of fire has been waking up along the Pacific, is it? I mean, we don't see anywhere where we might have a global explosion or anything. It's not like man
the
has said
whole world
that,
is burning again.
This is not like man has said HARP can make these volcanoes come to life.
And
I mean,
it's not like this has been the hottest summer I've experienced in Florida in over 25 years living here.
no, you have no. Don't go there. This one,
Well, I mean,
the summer
just
of
from my
'95 was just as bad.
okay, maybe so, but it's
I
really
lived
bad.
through it.
But climate change, no.
But
This is
you know, Scripture says men will hide them at the very end. Men will hide themselves in caves and curse the sun.
Yep. So
Which I
anyway,
think it meant the Messiah. But anyhow, we're done with this one, folks. We're going to call this a wrap. We'll be back on Wednesday. We Who Are Lost on the other channel. We'll wrap up in the book of Hebrews. Friday, Charlie's going to do this show. Our AI is taking the day off, but I'll be here running the board for Charlie on Friday. That's going to be a tough one for those of you who follow Scripture, especially you women. But if you're a husband or a father and you're paying attention and you have ears to hear, it'll be rougher for you. So we'll cover that then. But until then, I do thank you for being here. I hope we serve in some way, shape, or form. I don't mean to depress. If you're gonna walk along with me in this world trying to figure things out, you have to learn to face the monster. But then one of the biggest refrains in this book, have no fear. If you have your trust and hope in him, you don't have to fear. That's up to you. But I don't fear anymore. I don't. They can kill me. They can't eat me. That's against the rules. If you don't understand that, it's an old Marine Corps saying. We'll discuss that some other day. We thank you for being here. We hope that it helps in some way, shape, or form. If you like what we're doing, please at least hit the like buttons. That really helps the show reach other people. Send it to people directly. Ask them to watch. Tell them, whatever you want about me. We know that I'm an acquired taste, and we do mean that. We make a joke of it, but we know that it takes a while to get used to me, to understand me. Some people never learn to like me. Others get to where they really appreciate me, even if they don't like me. I don't know why. I think they're all Looney Tunes, but whatever. But we'll keep doing this until such time as the money no longer comes to keep doing it. That's all in y'all's hands as well. Till Wednesday, y'all stay safe. Take care. We love you. We thank you for being here, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.